horses, and today we are going on with story time. It's blowing a hoolie out there, so even with my microphone, I was not getting a good enough sound quality. I do much prefer to record outside when I can, and preferably with a horse beside me. Anyway, today I'm in my little house, out of the wild weather. So I just felt the need to do an addition to Alba's fabulous story of Muñeco, because he was, as she told, the most amazing pony. He was her companion through her whole childhood, and he was also Great Pony Club pony because he taught people so much. But apart from all that, he also had another amazing skill as a teacher. And that was getting people out of being stuck in their thoughts. So I always had a theory that horses, when you're so busy in your head and you're all disturbed and thinking a million things and worried, stressed, thinking negative, and the thoughts are just very busy, that for the horse, they hear that as noise. Like, we might as well be blah, 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 shouting out loud. And Muñeco demonstrated this so well. He, as Alba said, he could be very, very grumpy. In fact, when we went to see him, he belonged to a friend of mine, and she'd called me and said her granddaughter had grown out of them. And I went over to see him with Alba when she was about, I don't know, 2 or 3, I think, and my friend and her daughter. And we got there, we were looking at the pony, and my friend went to lift her daughter on his back, and he swung his butt round and kicked and ears flat back. And she said, "Are you sure this is a good pony club pony?" Anyway, this skill of his. Also, I will mention that my wonderfully talented therapist, that doesn't even describe what she is, just all-round healer, magical person, Elke. She used to say it's because he has a headache. That's why he is extra sensitive to this busy mind, busyness of people, because it bothers him more, because he has this tension a lot of the time in his head. And she used to work with him, and she would start very, very far away because he couldn't stand to have anything too close by. And he would really clearly let you know when he could stand it or he couldn't stand it. And actually, while we're on that topic, we'll just take a little detour. That I used to call him the bullshit therapist detector, because I used to always attract these kind of people, and so many people, all very well-meaning, good intentions, that had done some kind of energy works and courses. And I had a really awful experience, which is a whole other story of the best mare I've ever had, which I don't know if I'm ready to tell that story. Anyway, let's see how we go with the stories. But that mare really was messed up by a so-called energy healer. And up until that point, I just thought, well, there's just nothing's going to happen. So when people would come up and say, "Oh, I'm an energy healer," or "Oh, I'm this or that, can I practice?" Some people wanted to practice, some people wanted to do sessions in charge on your horses. And I would always say, "Oh yes, you can start with Muñeco," because Muñeco, if they didn't know what they were doing, he would just be ears full of whack, immediately let them know, because as Elke intuitively knew, you had to start very far away and then very calmly come into his space, when he felt he could accept that, and you had brought your silence and stillness down to a level that was bearable for him. So anyway, back to the story of how he was teaching people about that. Because, of course, people would go to approach him and he would put his ears back and look all grumpy, and he'd say, "Oh, is he going to bite? Oh, he doesn't like me." And I would always say, well, no, it's not that he doesn't like you. You know, you were love, you were light, you were truth. We are all love inside. What he doesn't like is the way your mind is going at the moment. And of course, very often the mind is saying things like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I shouldn't be here. Oh, I can't do this with this. You know, negative things that if we said that to another person, they would maybe help us out of it and say, oh, don't be so hard on yourself, or, you know, that's not true, I don't see you like that at all, whatever. They would be able to say something helpful. But of course, for the horse or pony, they just feel that negativity. So we might as well be just shoving the negativity at them. So Muñeco was so good at this, because I would just say to people, okay, just step back again. He's saying he does not want you any closer in your present state of mind. So step back, and then we would go to neutral position, which is something I always practice with people before we start a session, which is a series of grounding and breathing exercises. So we can come to a place of stillness and calmness and being connected to our body, to the earth, to nature, however you want to see that. So you would just step away and do that, and then approach again, and he could bear to have you in his presence. So he was such an amazing teacher in that way. And I know a lot of horse people say, oh no, but if he puts his ears back, you can't step away, because then he's going to think he's in charge, and then he'll get bad tempered, and then he'll start attacking people, etc. So this is not really true. I mean, maybe with some certain stallions or some horses, yes. And of course, you always have to take care. As Tom Doran says, it always depends. But with Muñeco, it absolutely wasn't. If you approached him and he clearly said, get out of my space, and you listened to him, respected that, and stepped back, he would be like, oh, at least this human's listening to me and understanding that it's too much. So he was just fantastic at that. And I think one of my clearest memories of him was a very wealthy lady who used to come for lessons. So one day she came, and she was very stressed and bothered about whatever it was, one of her huge dramas, which I'm not belittling that. Of course, to her, it was a huge drama. You know, from the outside, you'd look at her and think, oh, you've got all this money and this big fancy car and all that. How can you be upset? But yes, as we know, stuff is not the key to a happy life. Anyway, so she came and she said, oh, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. And it had been raining, and I was busy digging a trench in the small sand arena, and the ponies were all in there because the fields were all very muddy. So I said to her, yeah, that's fine. If you don't mind, I'll keep digging. I am listening. Go on. So she started telling me all her tales of woe. And I suddenly became aware of her tone. You know, when you're just like stuck in a really negative vibe. And I could see Muñeco out the corner of my eye. And he was, I don't know, maybe 10 meters away. It was a small, like I said, a small sand arena. So he kept looking round at her, and he was just getting more and more disturbed by all this heavy negativity and very busy, going on and on and on and on and on. So as I observed him, he was behind her. So he started to reverse up to her very slowly, very slowly. And then he just looked round at her, and he very slowly lifted up a back leg, and he kicked her. Not enough to hurt her. It was literally like, you know, it wasn't like bam, like a kick. He literally just, you know, it was more like a nudge. And she kind of, what was that? What was that? And it completely just broke that spell of that negativity. And and then she kind of paused and stopped, and she looked at Muñeco, and I said, just pause there, take some breaths, take the breaths. So we took some breaths, and then you could see Muñeco just soften and start to look a bit happier with the situation. And she kind of sort of stopped, and she said, oh God, what am I doing in that horrible cycle of negative and grudging the whole world? And I did see her years and years later. And I said, you know how many times I've told that story about you and Muñeco? And she said, oh my God, she said, it was such a lesson. She said, I will never forget that. Because, of course, when you get a lesson like that, so direct from a horse, it's completely different than somebody telling you something, you know? It's experiential for a start, and it's from an animal that just has a pureness of being, you know? They've got no agenda or no expectations or, you know, manipulative stuff going on. They are just purely who they are. So yeah, you're such a character. He actually did it to me one day. I was I had my groom off and the person who was helping me with the food off, and I think I had 4 people there on course. So I was trying to do everything. I was the teacher, I was trying to serve the food, I was trying to look after the horses, and I had to take the ponies out, and I was going along and I had 4 of them, 2 in each hand, and I was completely not there present. I was going through in my head all the other things I had to do, and I was saying, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I've got to get the food, and I have to blah, 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 blah. And I was really like in my head. And suddenly Muñeco, of course, this was unbearable for him, so he just gave me this big nudge in the back, pushed me, and I caught my toe on a rock when he pushed me. I lost my balance because, of course, I wasn't present, I wasn't grounded, I was up there in my head, and oh, went head over heels, landed right on my shoulder. Oh, but yes, that was a big wake-up call. He was the absolute expert of them. Our fabulous, fabulous Muñeco. There's so many other stories I could tell along similar veins of these ones, but that's probably enough for today. So thank you very much for joining us, and a little extra celebration of the life of a very special little dude. See you next time.